named Mrs. de Winter. You first discover her in Monte Carlo. She's what's called a paid companion for Mrs. Van Hopper, who's quite a sort of brutal, larger-than-life, decadent character played by Anne Dowd. She's incredible. And then, she meets Maxim de Winter and very quickly becomes his wife. Kristin is just incredible. I mean, I was so terrified the first time I saw her as Mrs. Danvers. And she basically just bullies me and like messes with my head throughout the entire movie. And like a lot of the characters do, actually, I've become sort of quite a broken person. But Kristin's incredible. And we did manage to have loads of fun, actually, even though we have a few scenes that are really, really intense. We were laughing at ourselves, thinking that we were being quite hammy actors and really falling into the sort of melodrama of it, because there's a lot of that in this story. It's like the gothic romance of it is very sort of, at times feels much like very larger than life and quite heightened and really like full on. So we had quite a lot of fun with that. I read the book when I was young. I think it was like a book, there's several books that my mum gave me to read, and Rebecca was one of them. I read it when I was about 20. And then now I've read it just like over and over and over and over and over again. I love it so much. So I think maybe I love it too much. I think in some ways it's been just like my lifeline, and other times I've had to like sort of try and like lock it in a drawer, because otherwise you become too reliant on it. Whenever I like go into a scene, I always try and think, what am I smelling? What am I hearing? Because you're in the mind of this character in the book, you get a sense of everything, of touch, of feel, of the tick-tock of her brain, like everything. And so I always try to make it feel kind of visceral. But it is intoxicating. You feel like drunk on these characters and on this house, and on like, you feel the sea, and you feel like the forest and the grass and the flowers. You smell it all. It's really vivid. And I think that Ben Wheatley's done this and has captured that in a way where it almost starts to feel like hallucinogenic, like this like psychedelic kind of like. Whereas I think my character gets more and more drugged as this story goes on, and she can't know what's true and what's not, and what's happening to her and who's being honest, and it becomes sort of so overwhelming. I think he's been capturing that in a really interesting, kind of unique way, very visual. Loads of times Ben's notes to me have been like, more scared, more like, more terrified, and there's just been so many shots where I've just been walking towards doors and like a little like slow motion. Like, he's really good at creating that like suspense and that horror aspect of it. It's amazing to have like a film called Rebecca about this woman that you never see or meet. So it's, the whole thing has this air of like mystery and of being desperate to know this woman. I think as a reader you feel like that, as my character certainly feels like that. You're either drawn to her or trying to escape her like presence that's like, and I think that would be amazing to watch this movie, because for all of us as actors in it, that's something that very much Ben is in control of, like how much that ghost looms over. So it would be really exciting to see. Armie brings just, I mean, he's just, I could never imagine him any other way now. It's like he's just brought his charisma and soul, and it's the first time I sort of walked out in France and saw him stood by a gold Bentley in a gold suit with the golden sun of the Côte d'Azur shining down, and I was almost fainted. It was too much. But there's a sort of real vulnerability to him too. I think that he's captured in a real, like, a sense of like longing for everything to be okay, and for like clinging on to a sort of the purity of, I think we've really invested in their love story in a way that I think we've made it more romantic, which was a conscious choice, I think, from Ben at the beginning. He was like, I really want to build up their love story before we tear it down. And so there's some of it feels like quite different from the book in that we're like closer in age, and I think you really, really root for them and he's just brought this kind of like Oh, he's just incredible, and he's just amazing to act opposite. I think it's felt really real and raw, and we've really tried to like make it feel really just whatever happens in the moment, let that be. And he's, yeah, I think he's brought like a real damaged fragility, but also a kind of like, you root for him too. This film has almost several different films within the film. At the beginning, it's this like really romantic love story, then it becomes a ghost story when they get to Manderley, and then suddenly it's like a sort of thriller murder mystery, crime drama almost at the end, and I love the thriller side of it as well. I think Ben's really brought that out. But Daphne, certainly by the end, we've drawn on characteristics she talks about in the book of doing absolutely anything to save this man she loves, and she does do almost anything. She goes rogue, and she really takes control of the situation and literally saves his life. It's been an amazing journey from my first fitting with Julian, who I've worked with before, and think he's just incredible. He's literally, my character goes on the biggest journey from where you meet her, where she's like sort of a paid employee in these sort of flannel shapeless suits, and then you see her sort of become a romantic heroine, and then you see her become this lady of this house, and the costumes have reflected that in a way that sort of do half the job for me. It's so detailed and so beautiful and so subtle.